Malarek. Thank you for joining our program today.
Thanks for having me.
On December 11th, you'll be talking to Ukrainian students about how to make the right choices while growing up. What makes you an expert on this subject?
I'm not an expert. I was a kid once. And as a kid growing up, it was rough and tough for me. Probably rougher and tougher than most kids have to go through, having gone from a broken home into boys' homes and foster care, through the juvenile delinquency system, and feeling that my life was worth nothing by the time I came out of it. And that I was destined to fail, that there was this thing about me that society had said, he's a loser. Mm-hmm. And I had to fight it to get to where I eventually ended up. And it was a tough fight. And my message to a lot of young people is this, you can go through all kinds of misery or all kinds of toughness or all kinds of difficulties in your life, but you've got to find that spirit and that drive that's inside you to go for your dreams, to go for your aspirations, to go for whatever it is you want to do in your life, and never lose that desire to do it. Life is tough. It's not easy being a young person today, but I always say, you'll get through it if you have your dream and if you have the spirit inside you and the drive inside you, which is important, to keep that drive alive, to keep the spark, in a flame, and then you'll go forward. This is what I did with my life. I was angry all the time, and I was ticked off at everything that had happened to me and my family, my brothers, and all the people that I knew in the boys' homes and foster care. And then I realized, look, Victor, this is about you going forward and finding that road and fighting for what you want. Picking up a newspaper one day and answering an ad for a boy who brings coffee to people in the office. Turned out to be at Weekend Magazine in 1968. And it was there that I found this thing that I wanted to do. It was odd because even in high school, I wanted to be a detective, and lo and behold, I became this investigative reporter simply by always pushing and saying, what more can I do? Because this is my dream. And it turned out that, wow, what a dream it's been.
Wow, thank you. What dangers exist in today's youth that were not present in your generation?
Well, the scary thing that I see day in and day out is social media. And there is so much information being thrown at young people today, confusing information, and it just keeps pouring in. It's in the old days, there was a sieve and a little bit came out. You looked at it, you read a book, you read a newspaper, you read you had conversations with people. You had conversations with interesting people or people who were like-minded and whatever, and you made your decisions. But today, it's a flood. It's like this incredible dam burst open, and every day it's being thrown at you. And I look at that, even myself, when I look at the various sites that I'm on, I'm going, I can't absorb all this information. It's too difficult to absorb. You have to be able to find the time to focus yourself and say, what is it here that I need to know, that I want to research, that I want to get into, rather than having 50,000 things thrown at you at the same time. And to me, that is one of the most difficult things about being a young person, or in fact, any person today. It's really, really hard. And to maneuver your way into that flood of material, at times you've got to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to turn this off because when sometimes people start talking to me about a lot of things, I say, look at my forehead. And they go, what? And I go, the light's flashing. I go, what light? And I go, it says full. You got to just stop for a while. You got to be able to sit back and go for a long walk. Every year, except for the last couple of years because of COVID, I've gone to Greek islands, very quiet Greek islands, where I regenerate my soul, my spirit, my drive. And that's what young people have to do. I was on a treadmill when I was a kid. And a lot of children and a lot of young people today are on incredible treadmills that weren't just going to where you're trotting. Now it's like full force, full speed. And you've got to be able to say to yourself at some point, I got to get off the treadmill. And you get off the treadmill by saying, this is full. I got to deal with a lot of it so it could empty out so I can bring in some new stuff.
That is a great way to look at it. Thank you. You recently came out with a new fiction book named Wheat Shaft.
Yeah.
How would you present this book to teenagers and young adults?
It's the character in the book. It's Matt Kozar, who is like a third, fourth generation Ukrainian American, and he's got his difficulties. He's become a young reporter. Geez, I wonder where he came from. And he gets on sort of an easygoing life, but he's always wanting to do something that is going to make a name for himself. That's going to have an effect. And all these kinds of characters come from my past. Like I went to the Ethiopian famine in 1982-83, and I saw all of the corruption, and it kept percolating in my mind with this food that was destined for the starving ended up being on, for sale in different other countries, and all of Americans and Canadians and Europeans were, bringing in the food to save these people, and I knew that it could make an interesting story. So Matt Kozar takes that story. Kids are always born with dreams. They're always born with this burning little spirit inside them. And it's to keep that spirit going and not to be drowned out by disconnecting from it. You always have to stay connected. And when you do stay connected, you will fulfill the kinds of things that you want to do when you're older. It may not come right away. And the great thing, though, today about being a young person is you have an opportunity to change and to change and to change, always to different things. I always thought I would have this 9-to-5 job that was always be in the same place. But I went from one newspaper to another newspaper. Then I went to television. Then I went to, from the Fifth Estate to W5. And everything was different and always changing. And lo and behold, I never thought I would ever write a book. I could not stand even writing a composition in high school, let alone writing a book. But I found writing was a lot of fun. It was, it was very creative. The nonfiction books were very serious. But, when I looked at it, I always said, if I'm going to write a nonfiction, I have to be able to put everything into context. And, I do that with young people as well. I put my life into context and I talk to them about it was rough. It was tough. It was a life that I wouldn't wish on anybody. I got through it. And if you don't let yourself get stuck, you'll get through it. The past is the past. But keep the spirit going. When you keep the spirit going, things happen. Very positive things happen.
So interesting to hear your journey. Thank you for that as well.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for joining us on behalf of the Contact Next Generation audience.
Well, I hope they enjoy this conversation.